Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. My guest is Eve Hall. Eve is a survivor of childhood sexual abuse and sexual assault, and she has carved her own path to sexual liberation. She has been practicing physical therapy for over 20 years and has focused specifically on sexual health. She treats conditions such as erectile dysfunction and, of course, the female equivalent, which is decreased sensitivity and dryness. Eve takes a multifaceted approach that looks at nutrition and other factors and provides a gold standard in treatment for these conditions, which happens to be acoustic wave therapy, which I'm eager to hear more about. So that's the short piece of Eve's bio. And Eve, you're more than welcome to add anything out of the gate that you feel like it's important for listeners. I know you have a podcast. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about whatever you would like, but anything out of the gate that sticks out for you.
Definitely talking about my trauma and how that has really shaped me and given me a platform for wanting to model conversations around sexuality, around sexual health for people, because I know that a lot of people are still stuck in their trauma and trying to heal. And I just love to be an open book, talk about myself, about what I've been through, so that it can help others to navigate the world of healing and getting to that place of feeling like they are thriving in the world, in their own lives.
Thank you for that. And so is there anything that you want to say about your trauma that you think would connect with the audience? I usually ask people not to be too detailed because we don't want to trigger people. What is it that you're comfortable in sharing?
Absolutely. So for me, between the ages of 5 and 11, I was sexually abused by 5 members of my family. And during that time, I learned to put my needs away and to not be able to say no. And my body was given up to others, and I no longer had control of that. When I decided to go on my healing journey, I started in my 20s. I really took a deep dive into all of what the trauma of sexual abuse did to me in all of the many layers. And so it's interesting because I really felt when I started my show, my podcast, that I was healed and I was there already. And it's so interesting because the more I interview people, the more I learn through others, and the more information that I integrate into my own life, I realize that really healing is a journey, and it's like uncovering the layers of the onion. And once you've uncovered one, then there's another one that's there that needs to be healed. So it really is a journey, but it's been a beautiful journey for me. And the more I heal, the more I want to share with other people so that I can help other people.
That's really beautiful. My experience as a therapist is that when I work with survivors every day. Survivors tend, if sexuality is on a continuum, a lot of the survivors I work with have been either sexually repressed and cold with their sexuality. And of course, the other end is sexual promiscuity. I want to know if you've seen that in your work, and how do you move people to be free, like sexually free and empowered, yet safe, but also not repressed? Like, where is that fine line, and how do you get people there? Or is that something you do?
Yeah, so I personally throw that word promiscuity out the window. I definitely feel like it inhibits people from really expressing themselves sexually. And we live in a culture, unfortunately, of purity culture. Right. And even if we don't belong to a church that is telling us that we should be the ones that are submissive, and we should be saving our purity for marriage, and we should strive to the pinnacle of a female's self-worth is getting married. All of these things that you hear, even though you may not be part of a church that's really pushing that, it's really societal. And throwing all of those societal norms out the window, and because there's science that shows that these ideas really are damaging to women. And so throwing all of that out the window and really honing in on your own pleasure and your own sexuality and accepting it as part of a natural, normal way of being, because we are all sexual creatures. We are all sexual, and there's nothing wrong with that. And so absolutely, I do see that, and I do try to help people to understand that conditioning can really inhibit our sexual freedom. And so once we are able to really understand that and really throw all of that stuff out the window and really hone in on our sexuality and our sexual pleasure, that can really enhance people's connection to their own bodies and their own selves.
No, I really love that because, as you are aware, we tend to use that label promiscuous more with women than with men. Like men,
100%.
it's oh, they can sow their oats, but it's taboo for women, even in today's society. I like that a lot. But do you feel okay? So what would be a different word for promiscuous? Because I do think it can be dysfunctional, where being repressed dysfunctional, sleeping with everybody and having multiple partners in a day and exposing yourself to more sexual assault, sexually transmitted, like that's not safe either or healthy. How do you help women like that? Because that is a problem with sex abuse. It's a coping skill that's just helps us to numb out more, like food, drugs, and alcohol. Sex can be used that way as well. What's your experience with that, and how do you help people?
I think that's really true about it can be an unhealthy way to deal with our trauma. And so understanding where the need for wanting multiple partners, and also when you can't say no, right? When you've been taught that you can't say no, you are going to put yourself in positions where you can't say no. And that is just continuing the trauma over and over again. So really teaching people that they have a right to say no. They have a right to their body. Their body is theirs. It's autonomous. We control our own bodies, and we have the right to say yes when we want to and say no when we want to, and constantly talking about enthusiastic consent, not coerced consent, but enthusiastic consent is so important, so that people really understand that if they want to have sex and they're enthusiastic about it, and they have spoken to their partner about their needs and their wants, and they are ready to go, there is absolutely nothing wrong with sex and sexuality. It is how adults play, and really embracing our pleasure is a beautiful thing. And so getting to that other side where you really feel like you are having that body positivity and having that autonomy in your own self is really going to allow you to decide how many partners you want to have, because sometimes having multiple partners is not necessarily a dysfunctional thing. It's a choice. And me being polyamorous, I definitely feel like love is infinite. And so why not have as much love as you can fit into your life? There's only so much time in our lives, right? But there's absolutely nothing wrong with seeking love and pleasure.
Just when it feels healthy and safe and empowering to you.
Exactly. And that's going to be different for everybody. Some people will want monogamy, some people won't. And that's okay. There are options.
And do you see women sometimes, or maybe men? I've seen men do this, so I'll rephrase the question. Can you talk about clients that you've seen who punish themselves by not allowing themselves to explore and have fun with their sexuality? And how do you help them? tap into their sexual pleasure.
Absolutely. I find this a lot with, I won't say a lot, but I find this in men, in couples, and especially in the swingers world, right? Where you find that men like to be cuckolds, right? And this is a whole nother aspect of really repressing our sexuality and allowing their partners to be the stars of the sexual act. And they are tamping down their sexual needs. And a lot of times that happens because they aren't able to physically perform. And the shame around that makes them feel like they need to be put down. And talking about everybody having a good time, not just one partner while the other one sits in the corner and watches and doesn't feel connected to their partner, really trying to get the partners to connect communication wise. And I think that is so key, is really talking about all aspects of sexuality and really modeling that for them is so important. I would say communication is so key, and really looking at each individual couple or person and trying to figure out exactly what is holding them back to be able to fully express their sexuality. And everybody's different.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll ask this question. If you want to pass, that's okay too, because it is a little more personal, I think. Have you experienced a time where you felt, because of your traumas, where you felt like you didn't want to be sexual, and how did you work past that?
So I feel like I have always been a very sexual person, but I did marry someone who, over time, our relationship became non sexual. And for many years, we were in a sexless marriage. And I, looking back, feel like a lot of it had to do with the fact that I wasn't able to communicate my desires, my needs, and my wants. And that came directly from the trauma. So, absolutely, there were times in my life where I had less sexual enjoyment. And I unfortunately had that during a marriage, which is what most people think you get married to do, right? But that was unfortunately what happened with me. And I found that once I got divorced and started my own sexual exploration, I realized that my sexuality was very important to me and that would never happen to me again. That was going to be on the top of my list each and every
For
time I
boundaries,
had
yeah.
any right going forward. And so I've made that pledge to myself. And so far I've been enjoying my sexuality. And the more I have these conversations, the easier it is for me to explain to my partner what I want and don't want. And that is key. That is everything.
It really is. I really love your emphasis on communication. I think if most people just simply learn to be more effective, and it's not a blame thing, because if you don't know what you don't know, if we don't learn it or not taught how to communicate effectively, it's very easy to get things wrong. And sometimes in therapy, I'll have both men and women say to me, how do I tell my partner? I'm like, how about just like you just told me? I think
Exactly. Just be
we
honest and
make,
blunt.
yeah, we make communication so hard, and it doesn't have to be. It really doesn't have to be. How do you model how to have healthy communication around sex and pleasure with the people you work with? Like, how do you do that?
I simply open those conversations up. I ask questions and I allow the people to really fully answer those questions to each other. And sometimes just being that bridge between the partners and how they communicate with one another. And sometimes I will model the question myself. This is how I would answer the question. And that way they have some verbiage, some language around how to say things. And I think as women too, we unfortunately are told that we're not supposed to insult our lover or hurt their feelings in any way. And really, that's bullshit, right? I don't know if you can say curse words on this, but you can cut that out if you need to. But we really need to be able to fully explain what we need and want. And if we are tiptoeing around our partner's emotions and their feelings, we're not going to be able to say fully what we want. Really putting everything on the table and having a safe space to do so is key.
It's beautifully said. Other than your podcast and your work as a PT, do you I think some physical therapy work around sex therapy is working with the pelvic floor. Do you do that kind of work as well?
Yes, sexual health is really encompasses the pelvic floor. That is really where, there could be a lot of trauma. There also can be a lot of weakness. And that is basically the foundation of what I do is pelvic health therapy and the pelvic floor. And all of the conditions that affect the pelvic floor, like incontinence, painful sex, also prolapse, all of these things are sexual health conditions, right? So instead of saying that I'm a physical therapist that treats the pelvic floor, I say I'm a physical therapist that treats sexual health conditions, but they're one and the same.
Yeah, I haven't always known that there were physical therapists that do that until I have a client that was seeing one and was getting help with her pelvic floor and found it really helpful. Okay, what else do I want to ask you? Do you do classes for people to teach other than your physical therapy work? Tell me more about what you do in your day-to-day working with people, because I'm guessing you probably do several things.
Yeah, so I treat conditions of the pelvic floor. I also do coaching around how to really make your body as healthy as it can be for sexual health. So I talk about nutrition. I also try to really help my clients to become a healthier version of themselves in general, because if your body's healthy, your sexual organs are going to be healthier and you're going to have a better sex life. That I do. I also do webinars. I just completed one this week. It was called all about breasts, health and pleasure. And I do all sorts of webinars monthly, and I do them typically on sdc.com, which is an ethical non-monogamous website. And then I also offer them on Eventbrite. And in the new year, I'm going to be coming up with a course called How to Get Big Clit Energy. And I just trademarked that concept and really created the concept myself when I was looking for the female equivalent of big dick energy. And when I found many articles saying, well, a woman can have big dick energy too, I said, no, we can't. We don't have a dick, and I don't want to have big dick energy. I have my own body. I have my own body parts. And so I coined the term big clit energy. And so I'm creating a course around that as well. So I do in-person therapy, and then I also do coaching.
No, I'm finding this to be so empowering. I am excited to walk around just saying I have big clit energy.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a new phrase for me. And I really want to say it around my children just for their shock and awe of it.
How old are they?
I try to have positive talks with them. The oldest is 21.
Okay.
And then 15, and my son just turned 12.
Okay.
So they're all old enough to know about sexual terminology.
Absolutely.
So it's exciting.
And empowering them. I find that too with my kids. My kids are a little bit younger, 11 and 13. They know what mommy does, and they ask me all the questions, and I'm going to be one of those moms that talks about everything with them, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think it's so important to model being healthy in your sexuality, because you want your kids to have that for themselves in their lives and not have to go through 20 years of therapy to get to the other side of the trauma that the society can just bring on in and of itself. So yes,
Great.
Having those conversations is incredible with your kids.
Yes, I think it's very empowering parenting. I want to ask about the acoustic wave therapy for people who don't know what that is.
Sure. So acoustic wave therapy is really the gold standard in treatment for erectile dysfunction and its female equivalent, which is decreased vaginal sensitivity and dryness. And what happens over time is that our blood vessels in our genitalia become blocked. Just like your heart can become blocked from your diet, the smaller blood vessels in your genitalia can also become blocked. And what happens is blood flow becomes less and less. And when people are popping Viagra and Cialis, what it does is it opens up those blood vessels to allow the blood to flow. But that is not really a treatment for the root cause. That is just masking it. It's allowing that blood to flow. But if you're eating the same way and you're eating lots of cholesterol laden foods, etc., those blockages are going to continue to form. And so eventually those pills are no longer going to work. And then you're going to have full erectile dysfunction in the severe state. And for a woman, it's more dryness and it's less sensitivity. And that comes about by blood flow. Just like the man gets erect, the woman has to have an engorged clitoris in order to be prepared for sex. What the treatment does, acoustic wave therapy, is it unblocks those blockages in the genitalia, and over time it creates more blood flow by creating more capillary formation. And capillaries are the teeny tiny blood vessels that hit every single cell in your body. And so having more of those is going to increase that blood flow to the area so that you can have more wetness, which comes from the blood flowing to the vagina and vulva. And then what happens is when there's lots of blood flow down there, the word is slipping my mind right now, but the clear fluid of the blood, it goes through the walls of the vagina and it goes through the walls of the vulva in order to make you wet. Okay, that's how you get wet. So you need blood flow to get wet. And same thing with the penis. The penis needs blood flow to become engorged and to become erect. Acoustic wave therapy increases blood flow essentially over time.
You are an excellent sex education therapist. Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You couldn't put your finger on one word, which I think is just normal life. But just the way you're able to break down and explain is really beautiful. It's definitely one of your talents and gifts. They should put you on a speaking circuit to high schools and colleges too.
Yes, I actually would absolutely love to do that. That was one of my goals for this year, was to go to different colleges and talk about sexuality, because we get such mixed messages in our culture, and they're not healthy messages. Abstinence is not the way people are actually functioning in our world, and we're not talking about the most important thing, which is protecting ourselves from STIs, and now protecting ourselves from pregnancy, because access to abortions are going to become much more difficult. So it is so important for college students, high school students, even middle school students to know how to protect themselves. And I would love to do more of that for sure coming up in the future.
That's awesome to hear. So, I know we could probably talk all day. You have a lot of knowledge. What is the best way for people to get in contact with you if they're interested in either learning more about you or working with you?
The best place to do it is going to my website, which is pleaseme.online. And on there, I have all of my shows. I have all of the podcasts I've been on. I have a beautifully curated store of sex toys where I recommend some of those to my patients, like penis pumps for erectile dysfunction, etc. There's lots of amazing things on that store. And also there's a whole host of other things on there. You can look at my affiliates, and I use parlor games for hormones. So all of the things that I use myself, I share with my clients and I share with my audience. Just check out the site. It's a whole host of information. And then on the contact me list, or tab, you can find all of my links to all of my socials. So follow me wherever you are most active.
Thank you so much, Eve. I really appreciate the education and the empowerment you brought to our show today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.